chosen one. The past cannot be revisited and rewritten in every detail, but it can be given a new meaning so that it no longer has the power to determine who you will become. I know you have carried many consequences that did not begin with your own choices. Wounds caused by others, fears planted within you when you were too young to understand, turns you took because you lacked guidance, and decisions you made when you were lonely, exhausted, or desperate. There are years you look back upon with deep regret, wondering how different your life might have been if you had known more, been stronger, or had someone stop you at the right moment. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, stands as an image reminding you that courage is not only the ability to overcome an external opponent. Courage is also the willingness to face the past without allowing it to drown you. Yet I am the one directly guiding you today, not back into the past to erase every memory, but forward into greater wisdom, freedom, and peace. You once wished for a button that could instantly erase every mistake, return all the time you lost, and bring every wrong road back to its beginning. I understand that desire. When you suffer because of the consequences of an old decision, it is easy to imagine that everything would be better if only you could return to that exact moment. But my beloved child, even though time cannot move backward, your life can still change direction. One wrong decision does not require every decision afterward to be wrong. One broken relationship does not prove that you are incapable of loving or being loved in a healthy way. One missed opportunity does not mean every door has closed. You do not need to return to yesterday in order to begin again. You only need to bring the understanding you possess today into your next step. The restoration I desire to bring about is not a mystical procedure, reserved only for a few special people. It is an invitation offered to anyone willing to face the truth, accept responsibility, and choose a new way of living. You do not need to call yourself chosen in order to have the right to change. Your value does not come from having a mission greater than that of others, but from the dignity placed within every human being and your ability to use your life to sow goodness. Perhaps the work you need to accomplish will not take place upon a great stage. It may be healing the way you speak with your family, raising children with respect, working honestly, or becoming the first person in your household who knows how to admit a mistake without shifting the blame. I do not sit before heavenly screens, watching every failure you make and deciding when to press some secret button. I am nearer than the images that cause you fear or fascination. I am present in the moment you pause before repeating an old reaction, in the apology spoken with sincerity, in the conversation you once avoided, and in the decision to seek help when you know you cannot continue alone. These ordinary actions may not create a great sound, but they are precisely what change the course of your life. Perhaps you have traveled far from the person you once hoped to become. You remember an earlier version of yourself who was hopeful, creative, and courageous, and then look at who you are today with a sense of unfamiliarity. Pain taught you to become defensive. Lies you believed for too long caused you to question your own worth. Certain relationships continually pulled you into chaos until living in tension began to feel normal. Fear of failure left you standing before good doors without the courage to enter. Gradually, you forgot what you once loved, what you wanted, and what you believed you were capable of doing. But my beloved child, your truest self has not completely disappeared. It may have been covered by layers of disappointment, protective strategies, and habits formed during difficult days. You learned to remain silent, because speaking did not lead to being heard. You learned to please everyone, because you feared abandonment. You made your dreams smaller, because each time you hoped, disappointment followed. Those ways once helped you endure, so do not despise the version of yourself who used them to survive. Thank the person you once were for carrying you this far, and then gently tell them that you no longer need to live by all those old patterns. Restoration does not mean returning to a fixed design in which every detail was predetermined. You are not a machine whose programming has gone wrong. You are a human being with freedom, the capacity to learn, and the right to choose. Your life has been shaped by circumstances, relationships, things beyond your control, and the decisions you made. Some plans changed because you matured. Some old dreams are no longer suitable, not because you failed, but because you have come to understand yourself more deeply. I am not asking you to become the person you were many years ago. I am inviting you to become a more mature version of yourself. One who preserves what was good in the past without being imprisoned by it. Begin by looking back without condemning yourself. What led you to those turning points? Were you trying to find love in a place incapable of giving it? Did you make financial decisions in panic or out of a desire to prove yourself? Did you abandon a path because one criticism convinced you that you were not capable? Did you return to an old relationship simply because you were lonely? When you understand the need beneath a decision, you can heal the cause instead of only regretting the consequence. Yet understanding must not be used to escape responsibility. You can explain why you did something and still acknowledge that it caused harm. You can show compassion toward yourself and still apologize to those who need an apology. You can recognize that circumstances influenced you without surrendering all responsibility to those circumstances. Maturity is found when you say, I understand why I acted that way, but from today onward, I will learn another way. That is the moment when you cease to be merely someone shaped by history and become someone who actively changes direction. The years you call lost will not be restored by returning the exact number of days that passed. I do not want to promise that everything you missed will return in its original form. Time does not come back. Some opportunities have truly passed, and some relationships cannot return to what they once were. But what was lost does not have to keep taking more from you. If you spent many years in the wrong place, do not allow it to take the years ahead through bitterness. If someone hurt you, do not allow them to keep taking away your ability to trust and love. If you failed in one plan, do not allow that failure to take away your courage to try again. Deep restoration begins when the past stops collecting interest from the present. You can remember without becoming paralyzed. You can tell the story without being swept back into the old emotions. You can encounter a similar situation and choose a different response. That is evidence that healing is taking place. Not that the memory disappears, but that the memory no longer holds the steering wheel. You do not need to deny that you were hurt. You simply no longer give pain the authority to choose your future. If a toxic relationship pulled you away from your good values, look at the truth without idealizing what happened. Love does not require you to live continually in fear, endure insults, or lose your voice. You can forgive and still leave. You can wish someone well without restoring them to their former place when they have not changed. You can admit that you stayed too long without using that truth to humiliate yourself. At that time, you may not have known how to set boundaries. Today, you can learn. If fear has prevented you from walking through good doors, do not wait until it disappears completely. Divide the large doorway into smaller steps. You do not need to change your entire career in one day. You can begin by learning another skill. You do not need to become instantly confident. You can express one opinion in a meeting. You do not need to solve every financial problem at once. You can clearly examine one expense and create your first plan. Every small step offers new evidence that you are no longer powerless. I want you to learn the difference between healthy intuition and fear formed by the past. Intuition often warns you clearly without driving you into panic. Fear usually causes you to imagine dozens of terrible outcomes, forcing you either to decide too quickly or avoid the matter entirely. When you are uncertain, slow down. Gather more information. Seek the counsel of wise people. Observe actions rather than trusting words alone. You do not need to attribute every wrong turn to the interference of an invisible enemy. Often, what you need is simply a better plan, the right support, or the courage to say no. If old wounds continue affecting your sleep, work, relationships, or causing frequent panic, seek professional support. I do not regard that as a sign of weakness. Some memories need to be processed in a safe space. Some reactions need to be understood with knowledge, and some burdens should not be carried alone. Healing may come through prayer, through a loving community, and through trained people who know how to walk beside you. You do not have to choose between faith and practical support. I also do not want you to wait for a special hour in the night, a vision or a declaration from someone else before you begin to change. No number determines the moment when I can touch your life. Early in the morning, at midday, or during an entirely ordinary evening, you can choose truth instead of fear. Meaningful moments do not need to be surrounded by strange signs. Sometimes the greatest turning point occurs when you quietly sit down and honestly say, "This way of living no longer serves me. I need help. I will begin again, my beloved child. The names others once placed upon you are not your true name. And the failures you have experienced do not have the right to determine who you will become. I have seen you carry too many definitions written during painful days. Not good enough, unworthy of love, always disappointing, unable to change, born to remain behind others. Those words may have been spoken by relatives, friends, someone you once trusted, or even by you during moments of despair. They were repeated so often that you began to accept them as truth. But today I want you to stop and listen to my voice, gentler than every old voice. You are not what others called you in anger. You are not the worst result you ever produced, and you are not the wounds that once caused you to make yourself small. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, reminds you to stand firm against every voice that seeks to diminish your dignity. Yet I am the one directly leading you back to the original truth. You are loved, you possess value, and you have the capacity to become a better person each day. Some labels have followed you from a very young age. When you made a small mistake, someone did not merely correct the action, but rejected your whole person. When you failed to meet expectations, they made you believe that love had to be earned through achievement. When you were sensitive, they called you weak. When you were quiet, they said you had no opinions. When you spoke, they said you were difficult. You tried to reshape yourself according to every gaze. But the more you tried to please everyone, the more unfamiliar you became to yourself. You no longer knew what you truly liked, what you believed, or how you wanted to live. You only learned to observe other people's reactions and adjust yourself to avoid rejection. I understand why you lived that way. There was a time when making yourself small helped you avoid conflict. Silence once protected you from criticism. Pleasing everyone gave you the feeling that you still had a place within your family or relationship. Those ways may have helped you survive a difficult season, so do not despise your former self. The person you once were tried to keep you safe with whatever they knew at the time. But what once helped you survive does not necessarily need to keep guiding you today. You have matured, gained understanding, and have the right to learn a new way of living. A healthy identity is not built by denying every weakness. I am not asking you to stand before a mirror and pretend there is nothing within you that needs correction. You still have unhealthy habits, blind spots, unwise reactions, and words for which you need to apologize. The difference lies in how you see them. A mistake is something you did. It is not your entire person. A failure is an outcome that must be examined. It is not proof that you are worthless. One rejection reflects one person's decision within one circumstance. It cannot define the value of your whole life. When you separate an action from your identity, you can accept responsibility without sinking into self-contempt. Self-condemnation often disguises itself as humility. You say that you are nothing, incapable, and unworthy of opportunity, and then believe that this is what it means to be modest. But humility is not denying the good I have placed within you. Humility means seeing yourself truthfully. You possess gifts that need development, limits that deserve respect, and weaknesses that require correction. You are not greater than others, but neither are you beneath them in dignity. You can acknowledge your abilities without arrogance, just as you can receive correction without falling apart. Perhaps rejection wrote a very deep definition upon you. Someone you loved did not choose you, and you concluded that you were unlovable. A group did not welcome you, and you believed you would never belong anywhere. An opportunity did not open, and you decided that you lacked talent. But my beloved child, others may fail to recognize your value because of their own limitations, needs, or perspective. Sometimes you do not fit one place, but that does not mean you fit nowhere. Even a good seed cannot grow in unsuitable soil. The problem does not always lie within the seed. I want you to stop returning to old rooms merely to prove that those people misjudged you. When you live only to make those who rejected you regret their decision, you are still giving them authority over the direction of your life. Move forward because you desire to live rightly, not because you seek revenge. Develop your abilities in order to serve, not to make others feel inferior. Receive success with gratitude, not as proof that you are greater than those who failed to recognize you. A secure identity does not require another person's failure in order to feel valuable. Failures have also called you by false names. Perhaps you began a task and did not finish it, made a poor investment, missed an opportunity, or made a decision that brought long-lasting consequences. Each time you consider trying again, that memory appears and says, "You will ruin everything again." But failure does not know the future. It only gives you information about what happened within one particular situation. You can study more carefully, prepare more thoroughly, seek advice, and act differently. You are not returning to the starting point because you carry lessons that your former self did not possess. I do not want you to erase the past as though it never happened. A mature identity is not built upon denial. Look directly at the things you regret, but look at them in the light of truth. What have you learned? What within you needs to change? Is there someone who deserves an apology? Are there consequences you can still repair? Do your part. Afterward, do not continue living as though you must endure an eternal sentence for a choice you have acknowledged and corrected. Responsibility opens the way to growth, while endless self-punishment only keeps you trapped. Pain has also placed many names upon you. When someone took advantage of you, you called yourself foolish. When you remained too long in an unhealthy relationship, you called yourself weak. When you did not know how to protect yourself, you blamed yourself for allowing everything to happen. But you need to look upon the person you were then with compassion. Perhaps no one had taught you about boundaries. Perhaps you longed so deeply to be loved that you ignored troubling signs. Perhaps you believed promises because you did not want to lose hope. You need to learn from what happened, but you do not need to despise who you once were. Healing does not grow well in a place filled with insults, even when the one speaking the insults is you. I want you to learn to speak to yourself with honesty and gentleness. When you make a mistake, say, "I did something wrong, and I can correct it." When you fail, say, "This method did not produce the result I hoped for. I will examine it and learn more." When you are rejected, remind yourself, "This hurts, but it does not define my value." When you are tired, do not immediately call yourself lazy. Examine whether you need rest, better organization, or support. The words you use toward yourself will shape the way you enter every relationship and opportunity. You must also be careful with praise. A healed identity does not merely stop depending upon criticism. It also stops depending upon applause. If you feel valuable today, because many people recognize you, tomorrow you may collapse when the attention disappears. Be grateful for encouragement, but do not let it become your only source of life. Your value does not increase when you are praised or decrease when you are overlooked. Kind words can strengthen you, but your foundation must rest deeper than the reaction of the crowd. I call you beloved, but that does not mean you will always feel loved by everyone. Some people will not understand you. Some will continue seeing you through the lens of your former self. Some will accept you only when you meet their needs. Do not use your new identity as an incantation to deny sadness. When you are rejected, you may still feel pain. When you are misunderstood, you may still feel disappointed. But unlike before, you no longer need to turn that pain into a sentence against yourself. You can feel it, receive support, learn what needs to be learned, and continue walking. I call you mine, but that does not make you arrogantly more special than anyone else. It reminds you that you do not need to step upon others in order to secure a place. When you know you belong, you can make room for those who have been forgotten. When you no longer need to compete for value, you can rejoice in another person's success. When insecurity no longer rules you, you can listen to correction without regarding it as a threat. A secure identity makes you generous. It does not make you proud. Look at the gifts within you and develop them with discipline. Do not merely say that you were created for a purpose and then wait for everything to happen by itself. If you have the gift of speaking, learn to speak responsibly. If you are creative, practice until ideas become real work. If you desire to help others, learn to help without creating dependence. If you possess leadership ability, Begin by managing your own time, emotions, and promises. The good within you must be cultivated, not merely praised. There will be days when you do not feel strong or valuable. Emotions change according to health, sleep, pressure, and the events around you. Do not demand that you always feel good before you believe what is true. Identity is not built upon temporary emotion. On a weary day, you can still choose one kind action. In a moment of doubt, you can still complete one small responsibility. Every consistent action is a stone placed within your new foundation. I also invite you to examine the relationships that continue reinforcing a false identity. Some people only see you as useful when you are always giving. Some keep you in the role of the guilty one, so that they never have to accept responsibility. Some repeatedly bring up your past whenever you try to establish a boundary. You do not need to hate them, but you do need to see their influence clearly. Reduce the access of those who repeatedly cause you to lose your direction. Spend more time with those who can speak the truth in love, respect your boundaries, and encourage your growth. But do not only seek people who always agree with you. A healthy community is not a place where you are never corrected. It is a place where correction is given respectfully, rooted in truth, and directed toward what is good. If a trustworthy person points out something you need to change, do not immediately accuse them of attacking your identity. You are valuable enough to be corrected. You are safe enough to admit when you are wrong. A mature identity is not so fragile that every correction becomes rejection. If old memories and self-condemnation deeply affect your life, seek suitable companionship and support. Some labels were repeated from childhood and cannot disappear merely through one affirmation. You may need safe conversations, time, and professional help to understand how those beliefs were formed. Seeking help does not mean you lack faith. It means you respect yourself enough to refuse to let old words continue ruling you. The restoration of your identity does not mean becoming a perfect person who never feels weak. You remain yourself, but you understand yourself more clearly. You know when to speak, when to listen, when to move forward, and when to rest. You no longer rush to accept every fault as your own, but neither do you avoid your share of responsibility. You know how to give without abandoning yourself. You can love others without needing them to continually confirm your value. This is the maturity I am cultivating within you. Forgive those who once called you painful names. Perhaps they spoke in anger, ignorance, or from wounds of their own. Forgiveness does not make their words true. It merely prevents those words from continuing to echo within you with their former authority. You can release the desire for revenge while still setting boundaries. You can hope that they change without returning to endure more insult. Forgiveness frees your heart. Wisdom protects your future. Forgive yourself for once believing false things about who you are. Forgive yourself for making your dreams smaller, remaining where you were not valued, or using harsh words to drive yourself forward. You did what you believed was necessary to feel safe and loved. But today, you can learn a better way. Do not hate your former self. Guide that person home with compassion. From today onward, when an old label returns, do not spend the entire day arguing with it. Answer it through a new action. When the voice says you are incapable, learn and complete one small step. When it says you are unworthy of respect, set a calm boundary. When it says you always fail, remember the times you stood again. When it says no one needs you, be grateful for the people who are present and actively build healthy relationships. Consistent action will gradually strip those old words of their power. My beloved child, lift your head while keeping your heart humble. You do not need to become the loudest person in the room to prove that you have changed. Let your life speak through the way you keep your word, admit your mistakes, treat the vulnerable, and use what has been entrusted to you. A person who knows who they are does not need to announce it continually. Their peace can be recognized in their choices, in their gaze, and in the way they no longer allow themselves to be drawn into every argument. I am not returning you to a person without history. I am helping you view your history in a new light. What happened remains part of your story, but it is no longer permitted to become the title. Rejection becomes a lesson about choosing the right community. Failure becomes wisdom for a new beginning. Pain teaches you to establish boundaries and show compassion. You do not need to call pain good, but you can decide that it will not remain useless. Now release every name that has forced you to live smaller than the truth. Release the label, not enough, because you can continue learning and growing. Release the label, unlovable, because one person's inability to love you does not erase your dignity. Release the label, failure, because you still possess the ability to change. Release the label, broken, because the wounded parts can be cared for, restored, and healed one step at a time. You do not need to deny your limitations. You only need to stop turning them into a prison. Then return to peace. Breathe slowly and be grateful that today you can choose a new way of seeing yourself. Be grateful for those who recognized goodness within you when you were unable to see it. Be grateful for the lessons that made you deeper and for every opportunity to begin again. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it helps you recognize that pain is not the only thing that exists. I am leading you back to the first name given by love. You are a person of dignity, someone capable of learning, forgiving, and bringing goodness into the place where you live. No mysterious voice or public recognition is required to make this true. Let that truth be embodied in your ordinary decisions. Live kindly when no one is watching. Speak the truth without causing unnecessary harm. Maintain boundaries without nurturing hatred. Dare to begin again without shame over having once taken a wrong path. My beloved child, your identity is not written by your worst days. It is being revealed through the way you rise after those days. Let Michael remind you of courage, but let my love keep your heart gentle. You do not need to fight everyone in order to protect your value. Live so that the truth within you becomes increasingly secure, until praise no longer makes you arrogant and criticism no longer causes you to disappear. Continue walking with lighter shoulders. Forgive those who misunderstood you. Forgive yourself for once living according to their definitions. And then choose a new life through specific actions. You are loved, but you are also invited to learn how to love rightly. You possess value, but you must also live responsibly with that value. You belong to me. Therefore, become someone who helps others feel that they also have a place within love, respect, and peace. Each morning, you do not need to ask what you must prove in order to be worthy. Ask where you can live more truthfully today, what you can correct, whom you can support, and which boundary you need to preserve. This is how your original identity is restored, not through one dramatic moment, but through a life quietly renewed. One day, you will look back and realize that the old names no longer make you turn around. You have learned to stand upright without becoming proud, to remain gentle without becoming weak, and to be courageous without becoming cruel. You are not worthless. Neither are you defined by what caused you pain. You are a human being who is growing, loved throughout the process, and still carrying much goodness to offer. Bring this truth into every day, so that your words bring hope, your presence creates safety, and your choices build a healthier future. Walk in peace, gratitude, hope, and the determination to live more kindly each day. This is the name I want you to remember. Not a title that places you above others, but an invitation to live according to the dignity, compassion, and light that were placed within you from the very beginning.